You can all take a seat and get ready.
Flip around.
I know that from my own experience campaigning that there's a lot of work involved. I ran a statewide campaign where I had to go from Cairo to Rockford. And I'm going to tell you that's nothing compared to what these candidates have had to do as presidential candidates. I would like for you to start the evening by giving them all a hand for being here. Instead of me introducing them, I'm going to give them each an opportunity to introduce themselves, and we'll start at the far end. Mark, you each take 60 seconds to introduce yourself. I guess maybe I should really quickly clarify how this is going to work. We're going to give everybody questions. The moderators will take turns asking questions of the candidates. Then they will get 90 seconds to answer each question. Not all candidates will be answering each question because that would take a lot of time or we wouldn't have very many questions. But if any of you candidates decide that you would like to chime in on a subject that you weren't asked, if I move on to another subject or one of us is ready to ask another question of the other candidates, just raise your hands and say, I'd like a response. And you can get a 30-second response to that. But I only want to offer you 2 times to do that. Otherwise, this debate could go on forever. All right? So you get 2 response periods of 30 seconds if you just signal to us that you want to do that. All right, so for introductions, go ahead, Mark.
Good evening. I want to thank the Libertarian Party of Illinois for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and to see everyone here. I'm here for you. I want to express my admiration for each and every one of you for being engaged and being here and helping promote the cause of freedom in our country. I'm a physician, not a politician. I'm a practicing physician, anesthesiologist at the Cleveland Clinic. As an anesthesiologist, I'm used to putting people to sleep one at a time. I have a different view of things. I didn't come to the Libertarian Party from the Democrats or Republicans. I was a dedicated, engaged, and well-informed non-voter living in Washington, D.C., growing up there. I first registered to vote 6 years ago at the age of 50. I thought all politicians were liars until I found the party of principle, and it's an honor to be here.
Hello, I'm Cecil Ince, and Bell. I hail from the state of Texas, but I'm living currently in Springfield, Missouri. I have a degree in acting and performing arts. I have been a professional transportation driver. I have basically been a regular worker. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a businessman. I'm not a former governor. I'm just a regular person. And that's something that needs to be done. I want to be a servant to the people, and I do that. And I do that today, but I would like to do that on a greater level and help unite this party under one libertarian banner.
So I want to point out that there's a lot at stake in this election. There's the real possibility of the Libertarian nominee being in the general debates, which would be a game changer. And there's no way that a third party wins unless we are in the general election debates. I'm an athlete, I'm an adventurer, I'm an entrepreneur, I have a terrific family, and I'm the former governor of New Mexico. So I think everybody up here is terrific. I just want you to know that I delivered. I really did. They called me the most dangerous politician in America when I served. The ACLU gave me the highest rating of anyone running in 2012 for civil liberties, and that included one of my heroes, Ron Paul. I mean, I found that to be terrific. I just want you to know that I've walked the walk. I've done it. Good government was easy. It wasn't hard.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm the youngest candidate running, But I'm the oldest, I think, in Libertarian years. I served as your volunteer coordinator in the year 2000, and I've had an incredible journey selling Libertarian ideas every day for pretty much the last 10 years. And I've been successful as a Libertarian, and I think that's important because we need someone who can articulate our message to the American people in a way that is principled, but in a way that they find appealing. And I've been able to do that successfully. I was inspired by Dr. Ron Paul in 2007. 12 of my friends gathered together for an activist group. We went in downtown Manhattan and we turned out 1,200 volunteers and $1 million raised for Dr. Ron Paul. Thank you. Yeah. I was born in Independence, raised on a horse farm in Peculiar, just a short drive from a town called Liberty. Think of that what you will. But I love this country and I love the Constitution. And I think that I am unique amongst these candidates and that I can build us a national coalition of disaffected voters who are unhappy with the choices that we have. That's why I got into this race. I may be young, but I'm not inexperienced. I helped to promote the governor on Fox Business, his campaign.
Woo!
I worked in 2008 directly on Bob Barr's campaign. I know what it takes to build coalitions. I think I can get us a little bit farther down the road, and I hope tonight I can convince you. Thank you very much.
My name is Derek Michael Reed. I'm from California. I'm an engineer, patent lawyer, military scientist, a bullion banking, finance, market analyst, and a geopolitical analyst. I've analyzed socioeconomic fabric of our society, devised a comprehensive solution set to solve the major systemic problems facing the country, coupled with a presidential pledge, a presidential platform. I will appeal to 90% of Americans, and I will win the White House with or without a debate with the Democrats and Republicans. I am the only candidate before you now who has a prayer at winning, and if nominated, I will plant the Libertarian banner on the White House. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank each of you for coming. I know it's not easy to do this, having been in politics for quite a while. I have not always been in the Libertarian Party, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. My name is Rhett Rosenquist Smith, and I chose to take my mother's maiden name, Rosenquist. My grandfather was not born in this country. He immigrated to the United States and became a judge in Texas. But on the issue of libertarians, I'm very interested in libertarians. About 2 years ago, I began to learn a lot more of the Libertarian Party and the principles, and it's kind of a curiosity. I mean, I guess I knew that they were around. I was certainly in other political parties, the Republican, the Democratic Party, even the Green Party. 4 years ago, I was a presidential candidate in the Green Party. And now I believe that there are some very key issues, and I hope we get to talk about that. Certainly, I want to talk about first freedom, which I say the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights is our first freedom.
Very good. And I'm going to ask our secretary, Jason Howard, to keep the time. We're going to be giving 90 seconds for each of these answers. And when they get close, just let them know. So, and before we move on, I want to introduce my co-moderators up here. I'm sure everybody recognizes Julie Borowski. She is an internet sensation. She caught my attention a couple years ago, and I'm really thrilled that she's joined us tonight. And also with us is a Springfield mainstay, a good friend of mine, Greg Bishop, who is the morning talk show host on WMAY and a reporter with the Illinois News Network. And I'm very happy that he's able to join us tonight. Okay, Julie, you get the first question, and why don't we start Well, I'll let you choose, but Mark got to leave. Why don't we start at Cecil?
Sure. So my first question is to those who have never held political office, how are you qualified for the top office in America? Cecil first.
Well, is the question about constitutionally qualified? Because I am. And I've been a member of the Libertarian Party since 1996, active in petitioning and all that. I've ran for office several times. I've lobbied in Jefferson City, Missouri, helped bring about libertarian legislation in Missouri, which actually reformed the Division of Family Services in the state of Missouri. I have been able to work with people that are elected. I have been able to reach out to people in the community. I've been a pro advocate for children with autism, my son having autism himself. You know, I'm about to work for the people. I'm not about to stand up in the White House and say, I'm going to be your ruler. I want to work for you, not be your ruler.
Well, I had never run for a political office prior to becoming governor of New Mexico. I mean, I'd never even pounded in a campaign sign. I went and I introduced myself to the Republican Party 2 weeks before I announced. They said, we like you, we like what you've got to say, but you just need to know you'll never get elected, that it's not possible to come from completely outside of politics and get elected governor in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat. Well, what I pledged was just a common sense business approach to state government. Look, I'm this successful business guy. This is what I've done. I've grown a one-person handyman business to employ over 1,000 people. And I learned some things in business, I think, that are really important. One was sharing in the profits. It's just amazing what happens to the pie when you share in the profits and everybody pulls in the same direction. And another thing that I learned was hiring and firing. I probably hired and fired more people than anyone you know. It's really easy to hire people. It's extremely difficult to fire people. I don't know of anything more difficult than firing people. But if you can't fire people, you end up bankrupt. The money ends up going out the back door. And I actually think that's why the public sector is dysfunctional. Because you elect a whole bunch of people who have never hired and fired. They find it real easy to hire. They can't fire. And they hire people who've never hired and fired. I'm not singling out Obama, but this is really the single biggest factor why the private sector doesn't work.
Let's make one thing abundantly clear. This was the question of people who have no experience in government. People who have spent their lives in government are the problem, okay? We need somebody who is outside the system. We need people who are independent, people who are don't have strings attached to them, people who are honest and who have integrity. You know, the founders wanted to be citizen statesmen. That's what they envisioned. Now, that is why they wrote the Constitution as they wrote it. 35 years old, natural-born citizen. Because they perhaps knew that a 35-year-old man might come along, or a woman, might come along and shake the temple of power. And it is time for us to break the back of the two-party system. Now, I am the CEO of a small business. I pay wages and I pay salary. I've got to make my payroll just like any other CEO does. But I have proven that I have come from nowhere, a small farm in Missouri, and kicked down the doors of power in entertainment and in politics. And if you nominate me, I will do what I did to your national office in 2008, which many people will testify. I will turn this party into a powerhouse of rock star activism, and you will not soon forget the name Peterson in 2016. I promise you that.
This next question is going to go to Mr. Reed, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Feldman. Starting with Mr. Reed, the Libertarian Party, of course, considered fringe. How do you anticipate, if you get the nomination, to capture the nation's attention without the assistance of the mainstream media?
I have devised strategic and tactical political plans to capture the White House. The Libertarian Party would be amazed. Let me give you a little peek. My solution set pledge appeals to 90% of Americans. I will end the corruption of the Federal Reserve Congress. I will stop the wealth transfer from the 99% to the 1%. I'm going to need 12 Corps commanders, one of which is going to handle the occupiers, and we're going to go after them and explain why my candidacy will satisfy their basic needs. Imagine tens of thousands of occupiers on the streets of New York with signs, Libertarians for the victory. I can bring victory to the party. I have managed engineering teams, legal teams, financial teams, and military teams successfully. Undefeated in federal court litigation for 10 years. The best patent attorney in the country for 15 years. I'm a Phi Sigma guy, 1 in 100,000. I know how to present the libertarian message to the general population to be appealing to them like a magnet. I guarantee victory in November.
Mr. Smith, same question to you. How do you plan on capturing the nation's attention?
Yes, excellent question. And I think the Libertarian Party has already captured the nation's attention. It's a question of standing on our principles and values, and I hope that we share the values that I'm talking about first freedom, that those, I think, values enumerated in that in those 45 words, I think are the pinnacle of the American Revolution. And I think by standing on principle, that's where America should stand. Really, the President of the United States is not so much a businessman or an economic leader, or, you know, obviously the economy does much better under a free enterprise system. However, it's really about principles and values. And we have to stand up and say, as a world leader, that we're not going to tolerate any longer those around our partners and alliances around the world that blatantly undermine first freedom, that blatantly undermine freedom of religion, freedom of speech. These are some of our most important global partners. And when we abandon our own values, we're sowing the seeds of our own destruction. We reap what we sow. Look what happened on 9/11. Supposedly a strong ally, but who attacks us? Disgruntled Saudis. And today, we face that same dilemma. So we cannot separate radical Islamists from moderate Islamists. All the people that would undermine first freedom in the First Amendment undermine us. And that's the crisis that we have in our world. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman, again, the question is, how do you plan on, Dr. Feldman, thank you. How do you plan on capturing the nation's attention without the assistance of the mainstream media?
Back in the 1960s, Marshall McLuhan got famous with a book on the media. It had the line, "The medium is the message." This was a time when the Americans were very hungry for content. Everyone had a lot of attention to give and only 3 networks on TV to watch. Now we have 1,000 channels and not that many people are watching. We have plenty of pipes. The limiting factor is now the attention. We've gotten to the point where it's the other way around. Now the message is the medium. If you have a message that people want to hear, it will spread virally. And the corollary to that is, if people are not hearing your message, nowadays, it's probably the message that's the problem. I come to the Libertarian Party, as I said, from a different path. I was a non-voter, like the 100 million non-voters who are sick of politics and politicians. And I'm not going to say what you want to hear, because I speak a different language. I could talk about freedom and liberty, but instead I talk about power and control, because that's what people in this country, that's what they see. What we see as freedom, which is the ability to choose to do what you choose to do. We want freedom, but most people are looking for power. They don't have those options. So I want to help to empower. I want us to become not the party so much of limited government, but the party of unlimited individuals. Because control is a zero-sum game. The more control the individual has, the less control that our government has. And if government, if we take power away from government to give it to multinational corporations and the wealthy special interests, the people are not more free.
Thank you, Doctor. And again, to remind all the candidates, if there's something you want to respond to, we'll give you 30 seconds. Just wave your hand and let us know.
All right, we're going to move on then to Governor Johnson, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Reed. The Libertarian Party is called the Party of Principle. What principle is it that drives you, and do you believe in the NAP, the Non-Aggression Pact?
And actually, sorry, Lex, I think Mr.
Cecil,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Yancey, Governor Johnson, Mr. Peterson. Sorry, Cecil.
Ents.
Yes, okay,
Ents.
thank you.
Yeah, it's like Prince without the PR. I'm working on the public relations.
I'm sorry, I really am sorry.
Yeah, the principle that I like the best is the fact that we're the only party that talks about, not, like you said, not just limited government. We also advocate individual liberty and physical responsibility. When I came into the Libertarian Party, the slogan was "Enough is enough, vote Libertarian." And whenever I first voted for a presidential candidate, guess who that was? That was Harry Brown. Okay? And then the second presidential candidate I voted for was Michael Badnarik. That was the party I came into. And the principle of the non-aggressive principle is what makes libertarianism into the Libertarian Party. Without the non-aggressive principle, what do we have to hold us together as a party? For me, that is the founding principle of this party, and I give all benefit to the founders of this party, which is Gary Nolan, and getting this party off the ground, because I could not have voted in the political landscape we have today if I never knew about the Libertarian Party, because I couldn't vote for a Republican because they were stealing my money and they wanted to put me in jail. And I couldn't want to vote for the Democrats because they wanted to force these programs on me that I did not want. And they locked me into a system of society that I could not hope. That the Libertarian Party gave me something, gave me a reason to live, gave me a reason to vote, gave me a reason to organize with like-minded people. And the Libertarian Party is my home.
Bravo.
Okay, Governor Johnson, for you also, what principles drive you, and what do you think of the NAP?
I do believe in the non-aggression principle, and for me personally, I think it was 1972 that I got this book which said, here's what a libertarian is. And I read that book, and from that point on, I was a libertarian. It was very simple, it was very short, and what the book said was, after you finish with this book, pass it on, that others might understand that. The first presidential candidate that I voted for that was a libertarian was Berglund, running against Reagan the second time, when Reagan just blew the lid off of the deficit and spending. I mean, I was just terribly disappointed with all that. When I ran for governor of New Mexico the first time, I really had to decide which party I was going to run for. Now, if I would have, and the first party I went to, the first meeting I went to was the Libertarian Party meeting in Albuquerque. If it would have been a meeting like this right here, I may have run as a libertarian. I would have run as a libertarian. But it wasn't a meeting like this. It was just a handful of people, and it took me about 45 seconds to realize that I wasn't going to get elected running as a libertarian. And then I ran as a Republican because really, I do believe in dollars and cents. I do believe that the biggest problem facing this country right now is the deficit and spending, and that government really is too big. Now, I don't need to tell you, Republicans and Democrats both have done a horrific job when it comes to dollars and cents. And hey, this is the time. This is the time, and there is a real opportunity here to break through. Libertarian nominee has a real opportunity.
I'd like to pause for a moment to recognize that a new candidate has joined us, Shauna Joy Sterling, who experienced firsthand the joys of Chicago traffic before she came down. So, and to explain to you the format, we're asking questions, but not every question goes to all candidates, and you have 90 seconds to answer. All right? Okay, Austin, for you.
Sure. So I have always been a libertarian in my heart because I believe in the concept of self-ownership. And I have always believed that the central concept of libertarianism is the idea of private property rights, that you own your life and your body. I believe that you should not hit people and not take their stuff at its most basic level. I think this issue makes me sort of the anti-establishment candidate in this anti-establishment party. I do get in a lot of trouble. I'm kind of a rebel, but trust me, I do have a soul. But I want to educate people, and I want people to question everything because I always want to make sure that I'm being the most logical and reasonable person in the room. So I want to play a little game, a little thought exercise. Bennett, have we ever met before tonight? Yes. When have we met before? All right, let me pick somebody that haven't met before. Have we met before tonight? Okay, will you do a favor and stand up? Let's just play a brief thought exercise, sir. I want to ask you a series of yes or no questions. I want you to answer them yes or no. If you walk past a homeless person on the street and that homeless person is starving to death and you do not feed them, have you committed a crime by not feeding them? No. Okay. Have you initiated force? No. If you have a child and it's your baby, and you, through neglect, allow that child to starve to death, have you committed a crime?
I believe so, yes.
Have you initiated force?
No.
Correct. And so this is the question of whether or not the non-aggression principle itself is the central thesis of libertarianism. Are we aggressing? What are we aggressing against? We are aggressing against private property rights. So it's derivative of private property rights. That's the central thesis of libertarianism. I want us to have a big, wide open party of people who are inclusive. I want everyone to join us, and I don't want to argue about little nitpicky things because we are in trouble, 20 trillion in debt. I'm fighting on the issues that people care about, the Constitution, and that's what people want to hear about. They want to talk about the debt and taxes. I hope you'll join me in my campaign to take over the government because I just want to leave you alone.
Yeah, let's go ahead and have Dr. Feldman respond. You got 30 seconds.
Just as a point, I think that letting a child starve to death is an aggression. I think we have a duty to take care of our kids. In addition, I would say is, I hold the non-aggression principle as a moral and ethical imperative, but it's not helpful as much on a political end because it tells you what not to do, not what to do. So that's why I propose a positive empowerment principle, that we should maximize the power of individuals to control themselves, their property, and their environment without infringing on the rights of others. This works for libertarians. If you put women in, for women individuals, maximize the power of women to control themselves, their property, their environment without infringing on the rights of others. That's women's liberation. You can put blacks, Hispanics, you can discuss any libertarian, any freedom movement in terms of empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you.
This question is for Reed, Smith, and Sterling. In the general election, how do you convince somebody that voting for a libertarian candidate is not a wasted vote?
Because I'll be the nominee and will win. Libertarians should focus less on theory and more on the namesake. Libertarianism is an opposition to totalitarianism. Democrats and Republicans have concentrated totalitarian, socialistic, fascist power in D.C., enslaving my countrymen as tax mules, perpetual debtors, and state dependents. We must couch libertarianism in a manner that is understandable to the electorate to win, and that is what I'm capable of doing for the party. The thread that binds us all is a desire for increased liberties and freedoms in our lives, and that sells. What does not sell is trying to legalize Kool-Aid in Jonestown.
Thank you. Again, a very important question about a wasted vote. And man, down in Texas, I've been in all those other parties, and that is a big issue. I'll tell you that it's not a wasted vote in a close election. And you can obviously see that if you remember the election in Florida. So when we stand up for principles, then those principles go around the world, because the world looks to America for leadership. And there are more libertarian parties in other countries now. So, but I want to get back basically to the values and principles issue, and why aren't we challenging the candidates that are leading in the Republican and Democratic parties when clearly they are duplicitous? They are not telling us the truth. They have a history of fabrication, and I think it goes even to a higher level of criminality. Why won't we demand, that the treachery that these candidates, Donald Trump, and the way the Clintons have behaved over the years, why isn't that a crucial issue? It is a crucial issue. We want role models. You may say, well, we just want people to execute. We just want a Secretary of State that flies around the world. But we need someone that is also a role model for the next generation of young Americans. And when we back away from these issues, we betray ourselves. You mentioned women and minorities. This should be a strong issue for the Libertarian Party. We don't see a whole lot of women and minorities here, and when I go to Libertarian meetings, we need more. We want women leaders. We want minority leaders to stand up for these values and principles that started before the American Revolution. There was a libertarian movement before the American Revolution. This is what we need. Thank you.
The other day I was doing fencing with my horses in rural Kentucky, and today I'm fighting traffic in Chicago to get here. So it's worth it. But I think about Biloxi, our first debate, and I said this at the last debate. 1 week from our first debate, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Libertarian Party is getting more members than it had in years. Okay? Our second debate to this debate in Texas, they are getting overloaded with people joining the party. So I believe that sometimes you get these perfect storms, and while the other ones are going to crash in it, we're going to fly to the top. And when people come and they're excited, and it's not just the vote. Forget about that. They want to be part of something that's going to be positive, and that's going to be strong, and they don't want us to say, oh, we're just going to go for 1% or 5%. They want us to say, come November, the Libertarian Party is going to take the White House. Then we will organize like that. And I did a little bit at NASA. They say, shoot for the moon, and you end up in the stars somewhere, but you'll get there. But I believe there's a year we can do it. I think the Libertarian Party might have been born for this year.
This next question goes to Dr. Feldman, Mr. Ince, and Governor Johnson. Real simple. What's the role of government in our lives?
The role of government in our lives is to protect the rights of the individual Americans, period.
Well, let me rephrase that.
Too short. Well, let's save time for others.
What are the proper functions of government in our life?
The Constitution, I don't believe that our principles are great because they're in the Constitution. I think the Constitution's great because it embodies our principles. I don't call myself an anarchist or a minarchist. I call myself an agnarchist. I'm not sure what the best size of government is. I think government needs to get to the size that it works well and under the Constitution. I think that's a lot smaller than it is now. I think my balance and credit plan that puts government in direct financial competition for funds with the private sector will shrink government while building up the private sector at the same time, based on the decisions of individual Americans. Will get government to do what it does best.
Mr. Ince, what are the proper functions of government?
Well, for one, the judicial branch is designed to protect and preserve life, liberty, and property, and should not go any further than that. Government overreach currently is out of control legislatively, executive branch, and the judicial branch, and it's time to reduce it restore liberty back to its constitutional bare bones and get rid of every single department and bureau and agency that is not authorized by the Constitution. If they want to keep it, they need to call for a constitutional convention and ratify an amendment.
Governor Johnson.
I think government's fundamental responsibility is to protect us against individuals, groups, corporations, foreign governments that would do us harm. It's just that simple. And with regard to government function, look, best product, best service at the absolute lowest price. So be open to taking government function and privatizing those functions. In any case where goods and services end up being the same, but cost ends up being lower, in any case where goods and services end up being better, cost is the same. I mean, just really common sense when it comes to running government. As governor of New Mexico, the first time in the history of the state when I was governor of New Mexico, there was actually 1,000 fewer state employees when I left office than when I got there. That had never happened before. It had always been fun. And given the fact that people saw that government was actually running better or the same, at worst it was the same, but really there was an observation that it was running better. It was. And so it had to be more efficient because there were 1,000 fewer state employees. So, look, fundamental function of government, protecting us in that capacity. Government does currently serve a lot of function that, as libertarians, we should be looking to privatize whenever possible. Best product, best service, lowest price.
I completely disagree. The role of government is not to protect us from corporations or individuals or other governments. That's what the Second Amendment is for. Yeah. The role of governments as they exist are to protect our individual liberties. Those liberties are derived from a concept of natural rights. The Founding Fathers had a Lockean, a John Lockean concept of government. That is to protect the life and liberty and property of each and every one of us. And Thomas Jefferson knew that the balance must be on liberty, not on security, because he knew that timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the boisterous seas of liberty. And you know what else he said? He said that I would rather be exposed to the inconveniences of too much liberty than of too little. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that we are all running for the office of President of the United States of America. And with that office, you raise your right hand and you pledge a loyalty to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution. And the reason we do, and that's for the federal government. So the federal government's role is to protect the U.S. Constitution. When they do that, when they protect all of our rights, all the rights that, the equality, everything, when the federal government tries to do all these other programs that don't have that aim, those are programs we don't need to even pay. We don't need to worry about.
Okay. Excellent question, and since we've had some really good answers up here, I also want to weigh in. Basically, you have to look at what happened before and after World War II. So the provincial government, the isolationist government that we had prior to World War II certainly changed, you know, after the nuclear explosion in Japan and after, you know, the arms race, the Cold War. We cannot shrink from that global responsibility. What are we doing up here? We're not doing anything as far as our global leadership. Are we going to be isolationists? Are we going to lead the entire world to a better place? Our dollar is the standard of the world. Our economy is the standard of the world. But no one is speaking about it.
Thank you.
We have to do that tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
We're reluctant to butt in when you're on a roll, but when you see Jason or one of us signal, that's all right.
I didn't even see you over there.
So that everybody gets a chance to speak. So very good.
Can I have 15 seconds? Austin, you stole everything I was thinking in my head when I was wanting to say it. And second, I know where in the Constitution does it say that we're to be global leaders. Thank you.
You only get two. Okay.
use it now?
Well, I don't think, I never said we need to be global leaders. I think we need to protect the United States of America and our citizens. That's what the Constitution provides for.
All right.
Next question's for Mr. Reed starting.
Okay. For Mr. Reed and Mr. Smith and Ms. Sterling. I'm going to look to some maybe less libertarian subjects that are of interest to all the candidates and all the parties. Let's talk about the Affordable Health Care Act. The people who championed that act will point out that it has brought health care coverage to millions of people. Do you support the ACA or something like it? And if not, what do you propose to take its place? Mr. Reed?
There are many here with their theory. Isn't that nice? What good is capitalism if they destroy the money or if they rig the markets? The theory is nice, but there's no practical solution. The Affordable Health Care Act now is a narrow focus. What we need to do is eliminate all social programs at the federal level, reinstate the republic, and have at the state level a minimum level of safety nets, including a system of chartered banks, kitchens, clinics, and shelters to provide a minimum level of compassionate care. The object is to restore the republic with practical, workable plans and eliminate the moral hazards of systemic federal socialism at the federal level. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smith, the same question. Do you support the ACA? And if not, what do you propose would take its place?
Excellent question, and I hope that everybody gets a chance to answer that, because Judge Gray, when he came to Texas, seemed to be saying that we were stuck with the ACA. And Judge Gray is your spokesperson, right, Governor Johnson? But I'm opposed. I believe in minimum government, maximum freedom, and what we need to do is diminish the role of the federal government, and when we do that, the void that's created needs to be filled by the state governments. So they need to step up to the plate and start taking care of their own responsibilities instead of running to Washington. That's what's happening. They want to run to Washington and get those democratic socialist solutions to all our problems, and the 50 states need to be independent. That's what our administration, when I get elected, if I get elected, we will be empowering the 50 states, bringing them to Washington, teaching them how they can stand on their own.
Bravo, bravo.
Okay, Ms. Sterling, what do you think of the ACA and what do you propose?
I hate it. I hate it, and I'm going to, how they say, pull it up, root and all, and repeal it. And that sounds, that's a lot, but I'm going to tell you this, and y'all might hate me, but a couple of years ago, I got, well, more than that, back in when Obama was trying to get reelected, I got recruited as an Obama organizer. And I actually thought, well, I can help people get health insurance. I bought it. Now, I didn't really know who the Libertarian Party was. I wish I would have, because I felt at home in the Libertarian Party, and I just never felt at home in any of the other parties. But, so I helped him get elected. I helped the ACA go through. And it's not affordable. It's not helping families. Every family in America now has to answer to the IRS every year for every month, and if they get fined if they don't support it and show it in their taxes. And I think it's just the IRS is out of control. It should have nothing to do with health care. And I don't think Obama needs to know every single time you go to the doctor and what you're dealing with, or any part of the federal government. The states need to take that on, and if the federal government wants to create a program to help them do that and transition it, fine, but I will repeal it. I will seek to repeal it, whatever I need to do.
May I respond to this as well? May I respond? Firstly, I'm a victim of Obamacare. Thanks very much. Thank you, Obama. When the president lied to the American people, he should have been impeached immediately. That was a crime. I'm a victim of Obamacare because I had affordable health insurance. I was paying underneath $100 a month. Then my insurance was canceled. My premiums were tripled. I had just started a small business. This hurt me right where it hit me the most, at the worst possible timing, right when I had jumped out to try and start a small business and create jobs. You know, I was there, and I was with Ms. Borowski the day that Obamacare was upheld the second time, the Supreme Court decision. And you know what I saw the liberals doing? They were lighting up cigarettes. And not doing it ironically. They were doing it because they knew that their health care was going to be paid for. We have got to eradicate this mentality. The Social Democrats have got to go down this election. I will take them down.
When the whole healthcare debate started, I thought, here's an opportunity to talk about free market solutions for healthcare. And by the way, healthcare is about as far removed from free market as it possibly can be. But I reject the insurance model to cover ourselves for ongoing medical expenses. In a free market approach to healthcare, we would have healthcare to cover ourselves for catastrophic injury and illness, and we would pay as you go in a system that was really competitive. So when this first started out, I had envisioned stitches are us. Gallbladders are us. For thousands of dollars, you could get your gallbladder taken out as opposed to tens of thousands of dollars. I'd envisioned x-rays are us, and then the radiologist down the street that will read the x-rays from x-rays are us. Very affordable, probably a fifth of what we're currently spending, and like I say, pay as you go in a system that would be very affordable.
Thank you.
Real quick, all I got to say is we need to repeal Obamacare at any cost, and I don't mean with force, but we need to lobby Congress. We need to make the presidential candidate needs to make the president needs to make recommendations to Congress and the Senate to get it repealed completely. And secondly, Dr. Feldman, have you ever given pro bono services?
Sure.
Today, if you gave pro bono services, what is the consequences?
Well, legal.
Okay. Thank you for your pro bono service. I think we need to go back to that.
This question is for Dr. Feldman, Cecil, and Gary Johnson. Immigration, big issue this election. What should be done about illegal immigrants that are in this country currently? Dr. Feldman.
Well, I understand the concern. We have a culture that has developed through shared history, common values, and people are coming in not always for the right reasons. But I think we can welcome Republicans into this party. And I see no reason to build a wall. In terms of immigration, the concern is really political. This is not really a social issue. The Republicans are not concerned about future criminals coming in. They're concerned about future Democrats. We are a nation of immigrants, and we need to, Milton Friedman had said that a welfare state and open borders are not compatible. So I say, let's open the borders and end the welfare state.
Immigration, as was just said, is we're a melting pot of the entire world. People immigrated here from Germany, from Russia, from Jerusalem, from all over the world to come to the United States, and the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, and coming in. We need the open borders like Ellis Island again. We need to open the borders like that with controlled immigration done through the U.S. District Courts. You come into, right now, if you decide you want to go to the Philippines, all you need is a passport. But if someone from the Philippines wants to come here, they have to have a visa first. Why can we not extend the same courtesy to these other countries? Right now, it's just a big problem. And with the welfare state as well, people are coming in getting free services that are not even U.S. citizens. Right now, what needs to happen is we need to get rid of the welfare state. We need to get rid of Obamacare. We need to get revitalize the industry and the workforce. And we can't do that as long as government is oppressing the economy. We need to dismantle the current mercantile economy system and reinstate the free market trade economy.
So speaking as a border governor, I'd like to start off by saying immigration is really a good thing. And when it comes to immigrants from Mexico, we're getting the cream of the crop when it comes to workers. They're not taking jobs that U.S. citizens want. They're taking jobs that U.S. citizens don't want. Wages are really not an issue unless language is an issue. And Mexicans are the first ones that recognize that, so they're bent on learning the language because then wages become parity or even better because they have such a wonderful work ethic. Look, let's make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country to get a work visa. Not a green card, not citizenship, but a work visa. A work visa should entail a background check and a social security card so that applicable taxes get paid. Make the line moving to get across the border and they will stand in line. With regard to the 11 million illegal immigrants that are here in this country right now, deporting them is crazy. But there should be a process by which those that have not committed any crimes get to start off by having a work visa with a pathway to citizenship, just like this country has been since its inception. We are all immigrants.
Theory, pie in the sky. Go ask American Indians what they think about open borders. 95% wiped off the face of the earth. African Americans brought here slaves under an open border, leading to 625,000 dead in a civil war and 150 years of race tensions. Immigration is great, but it must be controlled to allow the new immigrants to assimilate into a culture of democracy, liberty, freedom, and capitalism. It must be controlled for that legitimate purpose. Immigration for the second-class citizens living in the shadows today, there should be paths to citizenships without amnesty. It's appalling that it's occurring in this country. Thank you.
So this question is going to be for Mr. Peterson, Mr. Reed, and Mr. Smith concerning foreign policy. I take it we all understand the non-interventionist foreign policy up here. I see heads nodding yes. Given the current state of things with international affairs, how would you handle domestic extremists, terrorists, issues like Syria, North Korea, and so on?
Well, first, can I just please say stop the fear-mongering, because you're much more likely to drown in a bathtub than you are to be killed by terrorists. So I don't want to have the fear-mongers up here anymore telling you all of these threats that are potentially not going to happen to you, okay? But we do have actual threats, and I'm very inspired by Dr. Ron Paul's foreign policy. He wanted to hire, he wanted to hire bloody mercenaries the day after 9/11 to go after Osama bin Laden. Perhaps we wouldn't have dropped $2 trillion in blood and treasure in the Middle East. So let's look at the Constitution. We should never go to war without a declaration of war. That much is true. Also, the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, allows the Congress to lay letters of marque. There are a lot of veterans who are out of work. Hire them, letter of marque on their head, al-Baghdadi and his associates, if they threaten the United States. Send our veterans over there to be embedded in Raqqa. Don't carpet bomb them. Don't create all of this collateral damage. Let's get precise about our national security. Let's do what Ron Paul had stated. That's the way we should do it. Always follow the Constitution.
I don't think hiring assassins is the way to go. The way to go is through making friends between Russia, China, the EU, and the U.S. to resolve disputes around the country. For example, the road to Tehran leads through Donetsk. Tehran's a lot closer to Moscow in terms of a nuclear threat. The United States should befriend Russia and get them on the same team to chill out. Rumors are that Iran and Saudi Arabia already have the bomb. It's some serious stuff. In terms of the mechanism involved, you set forth red lines, you report to Congress if red lines are breached. It's up to Congress then to dictate to the president when to intervene. It should be done voluntarily. Thank you.
I think this question is so crucial to everything that we are doing, why we need to have a candidate for president, why we have to challenge the Republican
Yeah, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be big.
When I bring up isolationism, then I'm criticized for calling you out on being an isolationist, but you're going to use assassins to go around the world.
And Mr. Peterson, if you want to respond, since he did directly.
Yeah, I've been called the Donald Trump of this party. You know why he's leading, ladies and gentlemen? It's not because of his policies. It's because of how he's a salesman. And that's what I'm learning. You've got to give him credit for that, ladies and gentlemen. Just because he's politically incorrect and his politics are incorrect, it's okay to be a little politically incorrect as long as your politics are correct. I'm a hardcore libertarian. I'm a song and dance man. I'll give them the old razzle-dazzle, ladies and gentlemen, and they'll be singing our song, the sweet song of liberty. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. That's what America will be singing when I take the Oval Office next year.
I've done the analysis. Mr. Peterson is a shameless profiteer, a shallow panderer, and a grossly naive pundit. The Cato Institute 2 days ago debunked his budgetary plan, and finally, they're a little slow, reaffirmed my teaching that you must solve insolvency before you address the budget. He is demonstrating his naivety repeatedly. He should stop embarrassing himself and the Libertarian Party and withdraw immediately.
One thing, the last thing, he's right. I am like Trump. I want to build a wall around Trump and make Bernie Sanders pay for it.
Yeah. If we could just keep the back and forth as limited as possible so we can have enough from all.
And actually, you have used all your...
Okay.
Mr. Feldman, is Mr. Feldman all right to get 30 seconds?
Yes.
I'm not an isolationist. I just prefer dropping free speech, tourism, philanthropy, and investment on other countries instead of bombs. I believe that the Libertarian Party is a coalition, not a cult. And we don't have too many people in it. And I value the contribution that every single person up here is giving. Thank you.
Okay, so the next questions are for Ms. Sterling, Dr. Feldman, and Mr. Ince. And continuing on foreign policy, are we making the world more dangerous by allowing Iran access to its money and giving it more control in the Middle East? Would you have supported Obama's deal with Iran?
I don't. That's tough. It really is, because we really don't want to have Iran as an enemy. I'm going to give them some credit. They gave our soldiers, some of them crossed over onto their territory. They gave them back to us alive, which could have been a different story. But because of the work that we've done trying to have some relationship with them, we were able to get them back. However, I wanted to go back to the foreign policy that we were talking about before. One of the important things to remember is that when a president decides to send our soldiers to war, it needs to go through Congress. We don't have an AUMF that authorizes Congress to send, that authorizes a president such as Obama to send 20 or 30,000 troops to Syria to help fight this war. Obama's seeking it. Okay, other Lindsey Graham, McCain, they all want it. But the truth is we do have an AUMF that authorizes our special forces to go and pursue the U.S. enemies, Al-Qaeda. And ISIS is Al-Qaeda in Iraq. So wherever Al-Qaeda is, the same entities that killed 3,000 of our American citizens, we will pursue them with our special forces. You don't go get mercenaries and do all this CIA undercover stuff, because that's what happened. Obama tried to do that. He tried to make the secret deal with the CIA, and you know what? He armed our enemies, and that's treason.
Dr. Feldman, for you as well. would you have supported Obama's deal with Iran?
This comes up a lot in any libertarian discussion. Certain trigger words. Allow is one of them. Let, support, permit. You know, it's always my question, is it any of our business in the first